The phone call came at 3 a.m., a piercing ring that jolted me awake in my Chicago apartment. The screen glowed with an unknown Florida number, and my heart sank before I even answered. I'm Margaret, 58. A retired teacher who'd spent my life raising 2 kids, David and Sarah. With every ounce of love I had. David, my 2-year-old son, was in Miami, a software engineer married to Lisa, a 30-year-old socialite I'd never quite warmed to. The nurse's voice on the line was calm but urgent. Mrs. Thompson, your son David is in the ICU at Miami General. He's critical. You should come now. I was on a plane by 6 a.m., no luggage, just my purse and a racing heart. David had been sick for months, fatigue, weight loss, fevers, but Lisa's calls always downplayed it. He's just stressed, she'd say, her voice breezy. Work's intense. My daughter, Sarah, 28, had been suspicious, urging me to check on him. But I'd trusted Lisa. Now, as the plane descended into Miami's humid dawn, guilt gnawed at me. Why hadn't I pushed harder? I took a cab straight to Lisa's mansion in Coral Gables, a sprawling estate David's tech salary had funded. I hadn't called ahead. I wanted to see the truth unfiltered. The house was lit up like a nightclub, music pulsing through the palm trees. A yacht bobbed in the backyard canal, crowded with people laughing, champagne glasses clinking. My stomach churned as I knocked, the door swinging open to reveal Lisa in a glittering dress, a cocktail in hand. Margaret, she gasped, her smile faltering. What are you doing here? Where's David? I demanded, my voice shaking. The party noise drowned out my thoughts, but her eyes darted away. He's at the hospital, she said, shrugging. He's fine, just some tests. Come in, join the party. I pushed past her, my heart pounding. He's in the ICU, Lisa. Critical. And you're throwing a party? She rolled her eyes, tossing her hair. Don't overreact. He's been dramatic lately. I needed a break. I stared at her, the woman my son had married, and felt a rage I'd never known. Without another word, I called a cab and headed to Miami General. The ICU was sterile, quiet, a stark contrast to Lisa's yacht. David lay in a bed, tubes snaking from his arms, his face pale and thin. The nurse, a kind woman named Maria, filled me in. David had a rare autoimmune disease, untreated for months, now attacking his organs. He could have been stabilized earlier, she said softly. His wife kept delaying appointments. I sank into a chair, holding David's hand, his breathing shallow. My son, my brilliant, kind boy, was dying because Lisa cared more about her parties than his health. I called Sarah, my voice breaking as I told her everything. I'm flying down, she said instantly. Don't let Lisa near him. As I sat by David's bed, a hospital social worker handed me paperwork, David's medical and financial records. Among them was a life insurance policy, $5 million, naming me as the sole beneficiary. Lisa didn't know. David had set it up years ago, before they married, and never changed it. I stared at the document, my hands trembling. This wasn't just money. It was power. Power to protect David, to hold Lisa accountable, to make her pay for her neglect. I went back to the mansion the next day, Sarah by my side. Lisa was hungover, lounging by the pool in sunglasses. Margaret, you're back? She said, barely looking up. David's fine, right? He's dying, I said, my voice cold. He needs expensive treatment. Can you help with the bills? She laughed, sharp and dismissive. Don't be dramatic. David's got insurance or something. I'm not dipping into my savings. Sarah's fists clenched, but I kept my face neutral. We'll figure it out, I said, playing the grieving mother. But inside, I was burning. Lisa's callousness, her lies about David's health, her party while he fought for his life, it was unforgivable. I'd test her one last time, but I already knew the truth. She cared only for herself. That night, in a cheap motel near the hospital, I confided in Sarah. Lisa's been lying, I said, showing her the insurance policy. David's worth $5 million to me if he doesn't make it. But I'm not letting him go. And Lisa's going to regret this. Sarah's eyes blazed. She's a monster, Mom. What's the plan? I'm going to dig, I said. Find out what else she's hiding. And when I do, I'll make sure she loses everything: her lifestyle, her lies, her hold on David. I called a private investigator the next morning, a contact from a friend back in Chicago. I need everything on Lisa, I told him. Her finances, her lies, anything she's done to David. I'll pay whatever it takes. As I hung up, I looked at David's hospital bed, his chest rising faintly. He was my son, my heart, and Lisa had let him waste away while she partied. The $5 million policy was my shield, my leverage. She thought she could erase him, erase me, but she didn't know the storm coming. I wasn't just a grieving mother, I was a mother fighting for justice, and my revenge would be cold and just. The fluorescent lights of Miami General's ICU buzzed overhead, a constant reminder of the nightmare I'd walked into. My son, David, lay in a hospital bed, his once strong frame reduced to a fragile shadow, tubes snaking from his arms as machines beeped softly. The nurse's words, "He could have been stabilized earlier," echoed in my mind, each one a dagger pointing at Lisa, his wife, who'd partied on a yacht while he fought for his life. I'm Margaret, 58, a mother who'd flown from Chicago to Florida on a desperate whim, only to find betrayal where I expected family. The $5 million life insurance policy naming me as beneficiary was my secret weapon. But it wasn't enough to dull the pain of Lisa's neglect. Sarah, my 8-year-old daughter, arrived the next morning, her face pale with rage as I filled her in at the hospital cafeteria. "She threw a party, Mom?" Sarah hissed, gripping her coffee cup. "While David's dying?" I knew Lisa was shallow, but this is evil. I nodded, my throat tight. "She lied about his health for months. Said it was stress. I should have come sooner." Sarah grabbed my hand. "Don't do that, Mom. This is on her. What's the plan?" "I'm going to find out what else she's hiding," I said, my voice low. "She dismissed me when I asked for help with medical bills. I need to know why she's so carefree while David's like this." We went back to Lisa's mansion that afternoon, the Coral Gables estate gleaming under the Miami sun. Lisa was by the pool, scrolling through her phone, her glittery nails catching the light. "Margaret, Sarah," she said, barely looking up. "Back so soon?" "David's fine, right? Just some hospital drama." "He's in the ICU, Lisa," I snapped, my voice shaking. "He's critical because you delayed his treatment. Why didn't you tell me?" She rolled her eyes, tossing her hair. "You're overreacting. He's been whining about being tired for ages. I have a life, you know. Parties don't plan themselves." Sarah stepped forward, her fists clenched. "You're his wife. You were supposed to care for him, not throw yacht bashes while he's dying." Lisa laughed, sharp and cold. "Dying? Please. He'll pull through, and I'll be there." "Relax, Sarah." I wanted to scream, to shake her until she felt the weight of her betrayal, but I held back. I needed answers, not a fight. "We're selling David's car to cover medical bills." I lied, testing her. "Can you chip in? Even $5,000 would help." Lisa's smile vanished. "Sell his car? That's mine too. And no, I'm not paying. David's got savings or something. Figure it out." Her callousness hit like a slap. Sarah's eyes blazed, but I squeezed her arm, signaling calm. "We'll manage," I said, my voice steady. "Thanks for nothing." Back at the motel, my anger turned to resolve. Lisa's dismissal wasn't just neglect, it was calculated. She was hiding something, and I needed to know what. That night, while Sarah stayed with David, I searched his laptop, left in the hospital room. His password was still his childhood dog's name, a detail that broke my heart. Among work files, I found emails from Lisa to a financial advisor, instructing them to transfer $100,000 from David's accounts to her personal one, labeled business expenses. Another email showed her booking a yacht for the party, paid with David's credit card, while he was too weak to notice. My hands shook as I read. She wasn't just neglecting him, she was draining him. But the worst came in a forwarded message from a friend. Lisa says she's just waiting for David to go. She'll be set with his money. My blood ran cold. She thought she'd inherit everything, unaware of the $5 million insurance policy in my name. I called Sarah, my voice trembling. Lisa's stealing from him, I said, forwarding the emails. She's betting on his death to fund her lifestyle. Sarah's voice was steel. We're not letting her win, Mom. What's the plan? I've hired a PI, I said. He's digging into her finances, her lies. I'll test her one more time, pretend I'm desperate. See how far she'll go, then we'll make her pay. The next day, I met with the private investigator, Ben, at a diner near the hospital. A gruff ex-cop, he took the $2,000 retainer I wired from my savings without blinking. I'll trace her accounts, he said. Any chance she's forging documents? Check everything, I said. She's hiding something big, I want it all. Back at the hospital, I sat by David's bed, his hand cold in mine. The nurse, Maria, updated me. His condition was stable but critical. His treatment delayed too long by Lisa's lies. Guilt gnawed at me. I'd trusted her, believed her breezy assurances. But rage drowned it out. Lisa had partied while my son suffered, stealing his money and his future. The insurance policy was my leverage, but I needed more to bury her. That evening, I went back to the mansion, alone. Lisa was hosting another gathering, smaller but just as lavish, her laughter floating over the pool. Margaret, you're obsessed, she said when she saw me, her tone dripping with pity. David's fine. Why don't you go home? I'm staying, I said, my voice cold. He needs me. And those medical bills aren't cheap. Can you help at all? She sighed, exasperated. I told you, I'm not paying. David's got assets. Use those. I have my own expenses. Her words were a final nail. She didn't care about David, only what she could take from him. I left, my heart pounding with purpose. The $5 million policy was my shield, but Ben's investigation would be my sword. Lisa thought she could erase David, erase me, but she was wrong. I wasn't just a grieving mother, I was a mother with a plan. As I drove back to the motel, Miami's neon lights blurring past, I felt a shift. David's fight was my fight. And Lisa's betrayal was my fuel. She'd underestimated the woman who'd raised him, who'd do anything to protect him. And she was about to learn what that meant. The sterile hum of Miami General's ICU was a constant reminder of my son David's fragile state, his shallow breaths a painful contrast to the life he'd once lived. Lisa's betrayal, partying on a yacht while he lay dying, draining his accounts for her lavish lifestyle, had ignited a fire in me that burned hotter with every passing hour. I'm Margaret, 58, a mother who'd flown from Chicago to Florida to save her son, only to uncover a web of lies spun by his wife. The $5 million life insurance policy naming me as beneficiary was my secret weapon, but I needed more to bring Lisa down. I needed the truth, and I needed it fast. Sarah, my daughter, sat with me in the hospital cafeteria, her eyes red from crying but sharp with resolve. Mom, Lisa's not just negligent, she's a thief, she said, gripping the emails I'd found on David's laptop. She's stealing his money, waiting for him to die. We can't let her get away with it. I won't, I said, my voice steady despite the ache in my chest. I've hired a PI to dig deeper. But I'm going to test her one last time, make her show her true colors. Sarah nodded, her jaw tight. What's the plan? I'll pretend we're desperate, I said. I'll offer her a settlement to cover David's medical costs. See if she takes the bait. If she's as greedy as I think, she'll expose herself. That afternoon, I called Ben, the private investigator, and met him at a diner near the hospital. His gruff demeanor and coffee-stained notebook put me at ease. He was all business. I need everything on Lisa, I said, sliding him a $3,000 retainer from my savings. Her finances, her lies, anything she's done to David. Especially those transfers from his accounts. Ben nodded, jotting notes. Any chance she's forging documents? Hiding debts? Check it all, I said. She's betting on David's death. I want to know why. Back at the hospital, I sat by David's bed, his hand cold in mine. The nurse, Maria, updated me. His autoimmune disease was treatable with aggressive therapy, but Lisa's delays had cost him months. Guilt gnawed at me. I'd trusted her breezy lies, her assurances that David was just stressed. But rage drowned it out. She'd let my son waste away while she spent his money on parties. I needed to protect him, and that meant destroying her. Ben's report came in 3 days later, and it was a bombshell. Sarah and I met him at his office, a cramped space filled with files and cigarette smoke. Lisa's in deep, he said, handing me a folder. She's siphoned $200,000 from David's accounts over 2 years, funneled to a shell company, Lux Ventures, for her lifestyle brand. She forged his signature on 3 transfers, claiming they were joint decisions. My stomach churned. What else? She's got $150,000 in credit card debt, Ben said. High-end boutiques, yacht rentals, private jets. She's been living beyond David's salary, counting on his assets to bail her out. And get this, she took out a $50,000 loan against their house, without his knowledge. Sarah's fists clenched. She's a parasite. What about his health? Ben's face darkened. I found emails to her friends. She knew David's diagnosis 6 months ago but canceled his specialist appointments, saying she couldn't deal with his drama. She's been stalling, hoping to cash in on his estate. I gripped the folder, my hands trembling. Lisa wasn't just neglectful, she was predatory, delaying David's care to secure her payday. But she didn't know about the $5 million insurance policy, locked in my name, untouchable by her schemes. There's more, Ben added. She's been cozying up to a lawyer, trying to rewrite David's will. She doesn't know it's too late, the insurance is yours. I thanked Ben, my mind racing. Sarah's eyes blazed. Mom, this is enough to bury her. Fraud, forgery, neglect. What's the next step? I'm going to bait her, I said. I'll offer a fake settlement, say $100,000 from David's savings to cover his treatment. I'll record her, get her to admit what she's done. Then we'll use the evidence to take everything. Sarah nodded. Make it legal. I want her to lose it all. We worked with Ben's lawyer contact to set up the trap. They drafted a fake settlement agreement, worded to sound desperate but enticing, requiring Lisa to admit negligence in exchange for funds. We'd host a meeting at the motel, with a hidden recorder to capture her response. I also contacted David's estate lawyer, confirming the insurance policy was airtight and alerting him to Lisa's forgery attempts. If she took the bait, we'd have her on fraud, neglect, and more. The next day, I emailed Lisa. David's treatment costs are overwhelming. We're offering a $100,000 settlement to cover them, but we need your cooperation. Can we meet? Her reply was instant. I'm listening. Let's talk. Her greed was predictable, and it was my weapon. I also reached out to Maria, the nurse, who'd become a quiet ally. Lisa hasn't visited David once, she told me, her voice heavy. She calls to check his status, but it's like she's waiting for bad news. My heart broke, but it hardened my resolve. Lisa thought she could profit from my son's death, but she'd underestimated me. I wasn't just a grieving mother, I was a mother with evidence, a $5 million policy, and a plan. That night, Sarah and I sat in the motel planning the meeting. What if she denies everything? Sarah asked. Her voice tight. She won't, I said. She'll think she's getting money. Greed's her weakness. As I looked at David's hospital bracelet, left on my nightstand, I felt a surge of purpose. Lisa had let him suffer, stolen his money, and planned to cash in on his death, but I held the power to stop her. The insurance policy was my shield, Ben's evidence my sword. She'd face the consequences, and I'd make sure David got the care he deserved. The fight was just beginning, but I was ready. The humid Miami air felt suffocating as I prepared for the meeting that would unravel Lisa's world. It was a sweltering August evening, and I'd turned our cramped motel room into a stage for justice. A laptop sat on the rickety table, loaded with Ben's damning evidence: Lisa's $200,000 theft from David's accounts, her forged signatures, her deliberate neglect of his medical care. A hidden recorder, cleared by our lawyer under Florida's one-party consent law, was tucked into a lamp, ready to capture every word. Sarah, my daughter, stood by my side, her eyes fierce with determination. This was it, the moment I, Margaret, would make my daughter-in-law pay for letting my son, David, waste away while she partied. Lisa arrived at the motel promptly, her heels clicking on the worn carpet, her designer dress out of place in the dingy room. She thought she was here for a settlement to cover David's medical costs, a chance to profit from his suffering. She had no idea I held a $5 million life insurance policy in my name, or that I'd uncovered her betrayal. "Thanks for coming, Lisa," I said, my voice calm but edged with steel. "We need to talk about David's treatment," she sighed, tossing her hair. "Let's make this quick, Margaret. I've got a charity gala tonight." Sarah's fists clenched, but I shot her a look to stay quiet. "His medical bills are mounting," I said, sliding a fake settlement document across the table. "We found $100,000 in David's savings to cover them, but we need your cooperation. Sign this, it acknowledges you delayed his care, and we'll split the funds." Lisa's eyes gleamed, her greed surfacing. $100,000? That's it? I deserve more for dealing with his drama. Make it $200,000, and I'll sign. My heart pounded, but I kept my face neutral. "You'd sign a document admitting you neglected his treatment? For money?" She laughed, sharp and careless. "Sure. He's been a burden for months. I'm ready to move on, you know? Once he's gone, I'll get his estate anyway." Sarah gasped, but I pressed on, the recorder catching every word. "You're saying you knew he was sick and did nothing?" Lisa shrugged. "He was always complaining, tired, weak. I had a life to live. Sign me up for the $200,000, and I'll admit whatever you want." That was it, the confession I needed. I stood, my voice cold. "You're not getting a dime, Lisa. I know everything: your theft, your forgeries, your plan to cash in on David's death." Her face paled. "What are you talking about?" I opened the laptop, pulling up Ben's report. "You stole $200,000 from David's accounts through Lux Ventures, forged his signature on transfers, and took out a $50,000 loan against the house. You canceled his specialist appointments, knowing he was dying. And you thought you'd inherit his estate? Wrong. I'm the beneficiary of his $5 million life insurance policy." Sarah stepped forward, her voice shaking with rage. "You partied while my brother fought for his life. You're done." Lisa's eyes widened, her composure cracking. "You can't prove any of this." I played the recordings. Her emails to friends I'm waiting for David to go, her callous remarks from minutes ago, admitting neglect for money. Her face crumpled, rage and fear warring in her eyes. "This is entrapment," she screamed. "No," I said, stepping closer. "It's justice. I've already contacted David's estate lawyer. The insurance money is funding his treatment and a charity for neglected patients. You're getting nothing. And we're filing charges for fraud and neglect." Sarah opened the door, revealing David's lawyer, who'd been waiting outside. "The evidence is airtight, Lisa," he said. "Surrender David's assets, or you'll face jail time." Lisa lunged for the laptop, but Sarah blocked her. "Don't make this worse," Sarah snapped. "Get out." Lisa's scream was feral. "You can't take everything. I'm his wife." "You took my son's health," I said, my voice like ice. "Now you're done." She stormed out, her heels echoing in the hall. The lawyer nodded, promising to file the charges by morning. I sank into a chair, the recorder still in my hand, my heart racing but lighter. I'd exposed her greed, her lies, her betrayal. Lisa thought she could profit from David's death, but I'd turned her world upside down. Sarah hugged me, her voice fierce. You did it, Mom. For David, I nodded, tears stinging my eyes. For him. The fight wasn't over, David was still critical, and the legal battle would be messy. But I'd secured the $5 million for his care, and Lisa's empire of lies was crumbling. I'd already spoken to the hospital, ensuring David got the aggressive treatment he needed. The charity, named David's Hope, would help others like him, a legacy of care Lisa could never touch. As we left the motel, Miami's neon lights glowing in the distance, I felt a shift. Lisa had underestimated me, thinking I was just a grieving mother. But I was more a mother with evidence, with power, with justice on her side. She'd face the consequences, and David would have a chance to live. The numbers girl had played her hand, and she'd won. The motel room felt emptier after Lisa's dramatic exit, her screams echoing in my mind as the weight of what I'd done settled in. I'd exposed her for the fraud she was stealing $200,000 from David's accounts, forging his signature, neglecting his critical illness for her lavish parties. The recorder, still tucked in the lamp, held her confession, a legal dagger that would ensure her downfall. I'm Margaret, a 8-year-old mother who'd flown from Chicago to Miami to save my son, David, and I'd just turned Lisa's world upside down with the $5 million life insurance policy she didn't know I controlled. But as I sat with Sarah, my daughter, in the dim light, a new question loomed. What now? Sarah hugged me tightly, her voice fierce but trembling. You did it, Mom. You got her. For David, I nodded, tears stinging my eyes. It's not over yet. He's still fighting, and we need to be there. The next morning, we returned to Miami General's ICU, where David lay, his condition stable but fragile. The nurse, Maria, gave us hope. With the $5 million insurance money now funding aggressive treatment, David had a chance. I wired funds to the hospital, ensuring he got the best specialists, while Sarah coordinated with his estate lawyer to lock down his assets, blocking Lisa's access. The lawyer filed fraud and neglect charges against her, using Ben's evidence and the recorded confession. Lisa's empire of lies was crumbling, but my focus was David. We moved to a small rental apartment near the hospital, Sarah and I taking shifts by David's bedside. One night, as I held his hand, he stirred, his eyes fluttering open. Mom? He whispered, his voice weak. I'm here, sweetheart, I said, choking back tears. You're going to be okay. He smiled faintly, squeezing my hand. I knew you'd come. That moment fueled me. But Lisa's shadow lingered. Ben, the private investigator, called a week later with a bombshell. Lisa's been hiding a second family, he said, his voice grim. A kid, 5 years old, in Tampa. She's been funneling David's money to support them, using her lifestyle brand as a cover. Sarah's jaw dropped when I told her. A kid? She was cheating on David too? I nodded, my heart heavy. The boy's innocent. But it explains why she was so desperate for money. We grappled with the revelation, but it only hardened my resolve. Lisa had betrayed David on every level, his health, his finances, his trust. The lawyer added infidelity to the charges, ensuring she'd face a reckoning. Weeks later, Lisa's socialite status collapsed. Her friends abandoned her as news of her fraud spread, and she lost the Coral Gables mansion to foreclosure after David's assets were frozen. She fled Miami, leaving a trail of debt and disgrace. I didn't celebrate her downfall, it felt hollow with David still in recovery. Instead, I focused on building something better. With $1 million of the insurance money, I founded David's Hope, a charity for patients neglected by their families. It offered medical grants and support, helping people like David who'd been left to suffer. Sarah took charge of outreach, her energy a lifeline as we navigated David's treatment. Lisa's son was a harder question. Ben tracked him down, a boy named Liam, living with his father in Tampa. I couldn't punish a child for Lisa's sins, so I set up a small trust through David's Hope, ensuring Liam had access to education and health care. It wasn't forgiveness, it was justice, done my way. 3 months later, David was discharged, his condition improving with rigorous therapy. We moved him to the apartment, where Sarah and I took turns cooking his favorite meals, pancakes, lasagna, anything to bring back his smile. One evening, as we sat on the balcony, the Miami skyline glittering below, he looked at me, his eyes clear for the first time in months. "You saved me, Mom," he said. "I heard you fighting with Lisa. Thank you." I hugged him, tears streaming down my face. "You're my son, David. I'd do anything for you." Sarah joined us, her smile soft. "We're a team, big brother." Always. The charity grew, funding dozens of patients and earning local recognition. David, still weak but determined, started volunteering, sharing his story to inspire others. Lisa faced trial, her charges piling up: fraud, forgery, neglect. I didn't attend. I didn't need to see her fall to know I'd won. David's recovery was my victory, his smile my reward. One surprise came from Maria, the nurse who'd first called me. She visited the apartment, bringing homemade empanadas. "You gave David a chance," she said, "and you're helping so many others. You're a hero, Margaret." I shook my head, smiling. "I'm just a mom." As summer faded, I reflected on that 3 a.m. call, the moment I'd landed in Miami to find David dying and Lisa partying. I'd felt helpless, betrayed, consumed by guilt, but the $5 million policy had given me power not just to save David, but to expose Lisa's lies and build a legacy of care. Sarah and David were my family, my strength. Lisa was gone, her greed her undoing. And David's hope was my gift to the world, a reminder that love could outlast betrayal. Standing on the balcony, watching David laugh with Sarah, I felt free. Not just from Lisa's cruelty, but from the fear that had once defined me. I'd fought for my son, and I'd won. That was enough.